point here. So a sample is a subset of data selected from a population. A population represents all the possible data that are of interest in a study or survey. For example, with the golfer study you just did, what was the sample that you got? What was the subset, the smaller piece of data? The 6 golfers, right? The 6 golfers were your sample, that was a smaller piece. What was the population that you were looking at? The 24 golfers. When we looked at the song lyrics, what was the sample that you got? The 5 words. What was the population? Every word in the song, right? So sample versus population. The population is all possible data that are of interest. The sample is a subset, okay? We're going to look at this idea of battery lives being divided into intervals. Each interval includes the first value, but does not include the second value. We'll look at that in a second. Oh, I see what you're saying. So what they mean is, when we look at the battery life, 8.0, if a battery has 8.0 hours of life, it would be included in that frequency. If it has 8.5, it will not be included. So it need to be like 8.49 to fit into that category. So looking at that here, because I know that might sound crazy, or not sound crazy, but this one phone, right, is somewhere either 8.0 or just below 8.5. The 2 phones, right, notice this is a frequency. The frequency, or the number of phones that had a battery life between 8.5 and just less than 9 was 2. And the reason why we don't count the second number is because it starts, the next category starts there. Okay? So you don't count the second number, like that's not a part of the interval because that number is included in the next interval. So that's how that's working. And we'll look at how to graph this in a second. I will say this. You don't have to stress out that detail. That's not something that I'm going to test you on. What I am going to ask you to be able to do is calculate relative frequency. So what do they mean by finding the relative frequency here? Okay, so, man, I thought y'all would, I'll go ahead and say this. I thought y'all might have covered this in earlier classes.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Hold on. It's very straightforward. The relative frequency is just a ratio. So it's a ratio of frequency to, oh yeah, it is right there. They already defined it. So it's the ratio of frequency to total objects, or total size, sample size, that's what I should say. And so, when I look here, this first one, what's the frequency? 1. We have 1 cell phone. As a ratio to, what's the total sample size? Now, I will point out, these are 2 different sets of data. This is the E phone. This is unlimited, right? So what is the total sample size here?
32.
Is it?
Would it be 15?
10.5?
12.
I'm just curious, how are y'all getting those numbers?
I don't know.
I'm
but
just
you're
looking for a
pointing
bigger
to
number.
No, sorry, but it's what? Not 8. Let me point this out. There's 1 phone here, 2 more here, 17 here,
37.
30 here. You would add all of them together, right? If there's 1 phone that fits in this category and 2 more phones that fit in this category, that's a total of 3 phones. Plus 17 more. I will say, if you read the context of the problem, it tells you as well. Say again? It's 100.
Yeah.
Right? 100 E phone cell phones, 100 unlimited cell phones. So, for the relative frequency, this would be 1 out of 100, and we typically write that as a decimal. So that would be? Or 0.01. I'm always going to put that 0 in front just to help make sure that's clear. So that'd be, the next one would be 2 out of, it'd be 2 out of 100, so 0.02.
20. I mean, 0.2, my bad.
The next one? All right, let's work within our groups to figure out the relative frequencies. Remember, there's 100 cell phones for each. So 100 cell phones here, 100 cell phones there. That's the total sample size.
See, me personally, never.
She said, why you put 0.00, why not just this one 102?
So I'm gonna get another job at Arby's.
No. They don't do rehire, so
For real? They don't? So where are you going now? Man, you would get free chicken tenders and everything.
Have you done all these relative frequencies, Madison?
Yeah.
Are we supposed to do the
But are we supposed to
other
say
All both
unlimited?
sets.
Oh, bad, cool. Yes. What'd I do? Say no more. Arby's has some busted chicken tenders.
Yeah, Jenny.
People who eat art sandwiches from Arby's are a different type of thing. When you go to Arby's, when you go to Arby's, you figure out the chicken tenders and salad. No one have a job.
It's their roast beef.
So weird. What is the worst thing you had to make happen at Arby's? Like, what's the worst food there? What's the worst food there?
All right, do we need to talk about any of those relative frequencies? We good?
That's my favorite.
Okay, I've heard that we're good from multiple people.
Yeah.
Let's
Yes,
pause for
we're
a
good.
second and give those who are not good the chance to say. We're good, good.
We Gucci.
All right. So we're now going to use this to create what's called a relative frequency histogram.
Oh, good.
I'll go ahead and tell you this. You're going to think of this histogram just like a bar chart. It is very different, or it has some distinct differences from a bar chart, but this is what we're going to do for this relative frequency histogram. What was the relative frequency for the cell phones between 8 and 8.5? Relative frequency? 0.01, right? So here's 0.05. I'm going to just draw a little bar across where I think 0.01 would be. It's an estimate. For 8.5 to 9.0, what was that relative frequency? 0.02. So I'm just going to make sure I go a little bit above it to make sure that it's just a little bit above. 9.0 to 9.5. 0.17, so I'm going to go a little bit above 0.15. And I'm going to draw these bars in. Now, I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to tell you two things I need you to hold on to. The difference between histograms and bar charts are this. In bar charts, the bars are separated. The bars do not touch like they do with histograms. There may be gaps in histograms, but the bars touch in histograms. Guys, pause for a second and listen. And the reason why is that with a histogram, we're talking about what type of data? Look at the x-axis. What type of data?
Relative frequency.
That's not a type of data.
Bruh.
Not a type of data.
Battery life.
Not a type of data. Not a type of data.
Relative.
You said
There are two types of data that we have talked about. Numerical and categorical. Is this numerical or categorical?
Numerical.
Numerical. Histograms go with numerical data. Bar charts go with categorical data. And so you separate the bars in a bar chart because they are different categories, right? So the bars touch in histograms.
Madison.
What? Dude, I'll be on.
Because numerical data. So make a note to yourself. From there though, go ahead and graph the rest of your relative frequencies. Look.
What did it say?
I did not hear anything, sorry.
What? Bars such as Histograms.
Oh, thank you, yes. Alright, thank you.
Can you read it?
Touch. They say because. Okay.
Oh, God.
Actually, look, I can see. I just can't read.
Oh, you illiterate? Oh, you illiterate?
I'm gonna give you values.
Hey, let's see. Anyway, so Lita, what
It's so good.
is it actually not like, what's wrong with it?
It's so good.
If you go to RBC, you
Yes,
only get a
do
salad.
both histograms. Say again.
You can only get chicken nuggets.
0.32.
I mean, their chicken's good. Their roast beef sandwich is just hit.
Dude, if you get a sandwich from RBC.
Why are you looking at me like that? It's so good. McDonald's is processed. How about we finish the chart? I'm gonna talk about food later.
Not too. They got 3 foot working right now.
Madison.
Trying to see my work.
So you would just kind of leave it blank. It'd be understood if there's a bar.
This is the longest class period ever.
I gotta go take my sick pic though. You go.
Yeah.
Like.
Sure.
There's no sleeping.
About talking about falling asleep, you make sure you do your work right now. Focus. I always have to worry about you, my student.
We know why.
We got it.
I got some saying like.
Have you seen my calves?
Be real. Be real.
I'll show you tomorrow. I'll show you pictures. I'm telling you.
You can also just not draw anything, but traditionally I do.
You mean like hair? It's not bundles.
Oh.
Bundles is
I went like that.
it's pre-made. I didn't read it. It's messed up. Oh, right here.
Oh, dang it.
It was tattooed. But it didn't leave. You gotta melt it back down.
And then we went on field trips.
It's fine.
Hey, Mr. Kenny, are we gonna have a survey today?
What do you want to say? I couldn't get the calculators to work yet. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys, let's make sure that we're wrapping this up. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, like, it should look like this. Tomorrow, we will pick up talking about these things. If you have not finished these graphs, make sure you finish them right now, or enrichment or homework. I already passed out a sheet that we're going to use as a supplement to what we're doing in class, and it's the very next thing that we do. I think. So we should have histograms that look like this. I'll put it back on the board later. Okay, so the book assumes, please listen, the book assumes that you covered data analysis in your geometry class. I know that most of us did not. So I have a supplement here from what I do with my AP stats, just a small thing. And so what we're going to do is, what is one of the things that I've said that we are going to discuss that you probably have never discussed before?
Cuss.
Which part of it though?
All of
Unusual
it.
aspects, anything else?
All of it.
I mean, shape. Center, right? We'll talk more about spread later, but the big thing is the shape that we will get to tomorrow. Okay? So, again, your histogram should look roughly like this. You're just estimating, right? Hold on, just listen. If you have a 0, you can either leave it blank. The only reason I don't typically do that, and I do draw something, is just to make it clear that that is a 0, right? So you can do a line right at 0, or you can leave it blank. Yes, can I see it real quick? This sheet that's on your desk, go ahead and put it in your book right where we are, because it's a supplement for what we're doing in the book.
She's playing with it.
Okay, so excuse me, wait, I'm showing you the wrap-up slide. Hold on. Study for your understanding check on study design. It's only 2 lessons out of the book. You know what the stuff will be on. It seems like we are pretty good, but I would still always review. When it comes to mathematics, you need to be aware there's 2 sides of math. It is understanding the concept, the key terms, why things work. But then there's the other side of the procedures of actually doing the process. So you need to understand why randomization matters, but you also have to be able to use a random digit table or a random number generator to be able to select words. So make sure you understand the why, the concept behind it, and that you can actually put it into practice. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Were they able to help you check on the rate total table, help you on random digit table? If you sit here just 45 minutes tomorrow, then it's really easy to show you. See ya. So Leo, are you feeling better or are you still shaking up? Yeah. Rough time.
It was horrible.
Yeah. What happened?
That was when it went back.
When it slid back over?
It was
Golly, that's what, like when I saw it, I was like, that thing is crushed.
but someone was coming out and I was driving the furnace
Right.
and there was a stop. And so I was like, they see me coming, they're going together. And so I just kept going and I looked behind the driver's side mirror and I could see the car and I was like, that's kind of close. About the time they ran and it just flew into my back tire, knocked the air in the back tire.
And that caused everything to go, right.
And so I was smashing the wheel, it wasn't doing nothing. I broke up a car and busted their back without the wheel. But I felt so bad because there was a little kid in that car.
Is the kid fine? Are kid okay?
I haven't checked on it yet.
Okay. I mean, that it sounds like from there that's the Tractor Supply driver's fault, but man, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah, they said that they wouldn't, that they admitted to hitting me, so everything's going to fall on them. So those 3 quarters that were damaged is going to fall on them, but it's completely total.
Oh yeah, there's no way to recover that. Hopefully you can find something close that will replace it when insurance pays out, but good dude. I'm so sorry.
It was rough.
Yeah.
Not the best word for it.
No, that's a rough one. Hopefully you never see something like that again, because I've never been in anything like that.
When I was in the ambulance, the paramedic told me, he was like, yeah, if you would have had your seatbelt on, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Oh no, yeah, you'd be
And I was
dead.
like, yeah, because that's really what I want to hear right now.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
at least you had your seatbelt on, but Yeah, that, I honestly, I was like, I literally, I was driving by, I had to go through the Tractor Supply, and I was like, man, I started praying, I was like, I have no clue what happened to that person, but I hope that person's okay, and then it was you. And that's wild. I was like, I really thought like someone had to be massively injured. But
I was very surprised, like, that's all I ended up getting out with.
that's
And then
wild.
it's like, I was surprised.
Yeah. I'm glad you're okay. Do you need to pass your next class, or is it close?
It's a program, we have subs.
If you need a pass, email me or come back and I'll give you a pass.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, ma'am, so far so good.
Sorry, I haven't been a mentor.
Miss Beasley gave me actually some like marketing stuff. So we did practice or something every day. And she already told me about like they ran I tried to do they ran like on how
Good morning, teachers, students. Sorry for the interruption. Teachers, if you would this time, do a dress code check and make sure everyone is in proper attire for a school day. Students, hope you have a great day. Thank you.
No, I can.
Don't
Yeah.
lose. I'm gonna get you.
Okay.
You're wrong. Find it out, her protector on.
going to average the scores of those golfers. They're trying to average the number of the golfer identifier. And I was like, yes, you don't care about the golfer identifier, you care about the scores. So
That's like their name.
right, exactly. And I guess I probably should have said it like that. It is their name, just in a numerical way. By the way, all my kids, I think I might have told this already, but my kids are going to have you for free now. We didn't get it to drink.
Gotcha.
I know, but I
I don't
knew.
think Jacob did either.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about him.
Jacob got into
You
it
get it,
second semester.
you got it straight, yeah.
Jacob got into it in the spring, but I was trying to get it deeper on the following longer than that, so it should be better there. And but the trick I did to because I was like, I'm gonna bank on this, and I knew you built very heavily, so it was something that I would start from the beginning on. But if Cam and Preston Cam talked to me because they wanted to use the AC method for factoring.
And I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I was like, so literally all it is, it's factored by grouping is maybe.
So same thing
when
Carla teaches.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
split up that middle term into two terms,
Uh-huh.
and you factor the first two and factor the second two, and get it that way. Does that make sense? So
So
like,
Like if you have a 12x in the middle, you change it to like 3x and 4x.
so x squared, just making one up here, plus 6x, or 6. So it's called AC because it's ax squared plus bx
Right.
plus c. So a times c is 18, and he factors of 18 that add up to negative 11. And so something like 3x squared minus 2x minus 9x plus 6. And then you identify the greatest common factor. The greatest common factor here would be that negative 3, so I get x minus
Right, that's what
3x
Carla
minus
teaches.
2. Right. So it's just, that's
She just
the
calls it
term.
grouping and you call
Okay.
it AC.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I've
Remind
always
me
heard
what
it called.
happens if that's a negative.
So
How does it affect that?
let's say that this had been a minus 6 and I got a plus 7 here. So now I would get negative 18, and I still just need factors of negative 18 that add up to be 7, so 9 and negative 2.
Gotcha, so one, okay.
And so then it would work this
Okay.
way, so it'd be 3x times 3x minus 2. Now,
Plus 3.
and this is supposed to be a minus 6. So then this would be a plus 3 and 3x minus 2.
Yeah.
And then you still, if you've done it right, the binomial should always be the same. And so
Right.
you could either do it as x plus 3, undoing the distribution, or the way I show the students is you have a common factor, so I factor out the common factor, and I'm left with x plus 3.
Right. Okay, so you and Carla teach the same.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's all
everyone
it
does
is.
that bottoms up, and I always forget how to remind them. How do you bottoms up? I'm like, oh, I can't remember.
So that's all they're talking about. But if they want to use it, and they want to just come refresh and whatever, they can do that.
Okay.
But that's all it is.
Thanks.
Yep.